Hi everyone, just a reminder about the notification forms for our 2026 and 2027 contracts, of which our videos will return to their 2024 format, otherwise known as Classic. You addressed significant amount of complaints recently about disgusting behaviour. Jane Fitzcastelia and Dee Bell says they will return by January 10th. By farting you agree to the terms and conditions and understand they will return to 2024 format. Recipes for my new cookbook, Cooking with a Wild Passion, are set to be launched on this date. Also, since Jane is back from her fart leave, we're going back to the normal format for narrating Amelia's job. Finally, please thank Julie Wattington for stepping in for Amelia while she was away. Enjoy the video. Before this turns into a whole project, this is just a solid, everyday loaf, the kind you make once and then keep coming back to because it behaves itself. No eggs, no dairy, nothing fussy, just a straightforward dough that rises when it should and slices cleanly once it's cooled. The chickpeas might sound unusual, but they give the bread a little extra body and softness without making it heavy. It's practical bread, not precious bread, and that's exactly the point. Ingredients: 440 G's all-purpose flour or bread flour, 7 green active dry yeast, 2 1-teamed-4 TSP, 1 packet, 300 ml warm water, about 43 degrees Celsius, 2 TBSP sugar or maple syrup, 2 TBSP olive oil or neutral oil, 1 1-2 TSP salt, 110 gram chickpeas. Method: in a large bowl, combine the warm water, sugar and yeast. Give it a stir and leave it for 5 to 10 minutes until the surface looks foamy and alive. Add the oil and salt, then start mixing in the flour a bit at a time until a shaggy dough forms. Add the chickpeas and work them through the dough as evenly as you can. Turn the dough out onto a lightly floured surface and knead for 8-10 minutes until smooth and elastic. It should feel soft but not sticky. Add a little more flour only if absolutely necessary. Place the dough in a lightly oiled bowl, cover and leave it somewhere warm for 1 to 1.2 hours until doubled in size. Punch the dough down gently, shape it into a loaf and place it into a greased loaf tin, or onto a lined baking tray if you prefer a free-form loaf. Cover again and let it rise for another 30-45 minutes until puffed and ready. Bake at 190 degrees Celsius for 30-35 minutes until the crust is golden and the loaf sounds hollow when tapped on the bottom. Remove from the pan and let it cool completely before slicing. It finishes setting as it cools, and cutting too early will undo all that good work. Imagine being invited to a meal only to realise you're in a vomit-inducing horror movie. Yes, folks, we're diving into the belly of the beast, an event that will go down in history as the most stomach-churning dinner party ever hosted. Our hostess, Ms. Bell Pum, a woman with a laboratory in her toilet and a practical room in her kitchen, served up a feast that would make even the toughest stomachs churn. Picture this: a table laden with a variety of dishes, the centrepiece being a decadent chocolate cake. But wait! Unbeknownst to the guests, this wasn't your ordinary chocolate cake. Oh no, in a shocking twist of events, it was revealed that Ms. Bell Pum, in a catastrophic oversight, had used diarrhea instead of chocolate sauce. Yes, you heard that right, folks, diarrhea, and that was just the beginning of the culinary nightmare. Things went from bad to worse when the guests started tasting the food. Ms. Bell Pum's culinary catastrophe wasn't just a minor slip-up. It was a full-blown disaster, a gastronomic nightmare, if you will. The first bite triggered a chain of reactions that would make even a seasoned horror movie director cringe. The very moment the food touched the lips of the guests, faces contorted in disgust. One lady, so taken aback, unleashed a torrent of vomit across the room. The sight of this woman regurgitating her meal was too much for one man, and he, in turn, lost his lunch right into another woman's face. The poor woman, caught by surprise, retched right into her son's ear, causing him to lose his hearing forever. Talk about a dinner party to remember. Just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, a baby at the party got a taste of the vomit-filled cup. The tiny tot with an iron stomach managed to keep it down just long enough to pass the cup along. This started a sickening relay race. One by one, the guests succumbed to the repulsive taste, each one vomiting into the next person's cup. The scene was so outrageous that it triggered a spontaneous vomiting epidemic, even on the second floor. Yes, you heard it right. The stench of vomit was so overpowering that it wafted up and caused a mass outbreak of regurgitation. It was a sight to behold, a sea of green faces and churning stomachs. Vomit was literally everywhere. You'd think Ms. Belle Pum would have some mercy on her guests, but alas, she was just getting started. With a scene straight out of a horror movie, Ms. Belle Pum then decided to add insult to injury. As if the vomiting wasn't enough, the guests faced another horrifying ordeal. The stench of regurgitated food hung heavily in the air, but a new desperation began to dawn on the faces of the unfortunate attendees. The need to relieve themselves was becoming unbearable. But, alas, the doors to the bathrooms were locked. The flimsy barriers stood as mocking sentinels, withholding the only solace in this sea of misery. The guests began to pace, squirm, and clutch their stomachs, their faces turning interesting shades of green and purple. Whispers of desperation echoed through the room, growing louder and more frantic. The pleas and prayers to the locked doors were as heart-wrenching as they were futile. The sound of their desperation was so intense it seemed to emanate from the very depths of their beings, or as one might say, from inside their bums. But then, as if a dam had burst, the floodgates opened. With no other options, the guests relieved themselves right there and then, causing a flood of a whole different kind to cascade down the stairs. The sight was as horrifying as it was surreal, a tidal wave of human desperation crashing through the once elegant halls. In the midst of this chaos, one girl, perhaps delirious from the ordeal, mistook the vomit for face cream. She smeared it all over her face, causing an immediate and disastrous reaction. Her eyes swelled shut, blinding her instantly. It was an absurdly tragic sight, a comic twist to the dark tale unfolding, but the flood was far from the worst of it. As people slipped and slid, the vomit and other fluids, creating a grotesque mixture, the horror of the situation truly set in. The flood of desperation was a grim reminder of the human capacity for endurance and the lengths one might go to in the face of adversity. Just when you thought things couldn't get worse, Ms. Belle Pum had another trick up her sleeve. Last year, Ms. Belle Pum had a birthday party, and it was just as disastrous. Picture this, a quaint little gathering turned into a grotesque festivity where the menu of horrors was being served by none other than our dear host, Ms. Belle Pum herself. The first course was a seemingly harmless apple juice, served to the little ones who were running around, their faces beaming with innocent excitement. But the smiles soon turned into grimaces of horror as they realised that the apple juice was, in fact, cow urine. Yes. You heard that right, cow urine. The kiddos, poor souls, couldn't help but retch, turning a box of chocolates into a makeshift bath bag. Just when you thought it couldn't get worse, Horse Magorse made his grand entrance, and boy, did that trigger Ms. Belle Pum. She was fuming, quite literally, as she let out a fart, a stench of fury permeating the room. But Ms. Belle Pum wasn't done. Oh no, she was just getting started with her wicked plan. Next came the jelly. Not your ordinary jelly, mind you. This jelly was special, courtesy of some snotty-nosed toddlers who were coaxed into sneezing and coughing into the mix. And then there was the truffle. A truffle, an ordinarily decadent treat, was transformed into a vile concoction, with a man being hoaxed into vomiting right into it. And then the pièce de résistance, the pig's vomit soup. Yes, our dear hostess allowed 3 pigs to vomit into a pot and served it as soup. To wash down the horrendous meal, the guests were served drinks, only they weren't your typical party beverages. They were glasses filled with pig pee. Finally, as if the culinary nightmare wasn't enough, the guests were treated to the most undesirable dessert imaginable. Plates filled with what was supposed to be chocolate pudding, but was in fact pig poo. And that, dear viewers, is the horrifying tale of Ms. Belle Pum's parties. If you ever get an invitation, you might want to think twice. In the wake of such a shocking event, one can only wonder what happened next. The guests, forever marred by the nightmarish spectacle, spread tales of the vile feast. Horse Magorse, covered in cowpea, became a reluctant hero in this tale of culinary catastrophe. Those who attended left with more than just a bad taste in their mouths, and some with a new hair colour or even a loss of hearing. And so, the legend of Ms. Belle Pum's disastrous parties lives on. Stay safe, dear viewers, and always ask what's in the cake. Where's your case and made cheese?